everybody really liked him!
I waited a long time for The Last of Us 2, and like many of you, I have a lot of things to say. Many of you seem to have just one thing to say. I hate it! But stick with me to the end and maybe you will find something to like about it, or at least understand it. And let me reel you in by first saying that I'm not that happy with it either. I can't even describe what going into this game was like. Part of the experience was ruined. I was nervous. Not just because it's a spooky game with a dramatic story, but I was worried I'd waited 7 years for a flop. Fans of the original went from this
Come on,
to this. Personally, I avoided the leaks. I hate leaks and I hate rumors. I even have a video about that. When I heard things were leaked, I was like, the only thing that broke through was that people were really pissed off about gay stuff, and I was like, we already know Ellie's a lesbo, who gives a shit? But either way, I like to do this thing that I call playing the game for my goddamn self and making my own goddamn decision. Especially the follow-up to one of my favorite games that I waited an entire goddamn console generation for. So let me get the good things about this game just out of the way first. First of all, it's gorgeous. Best looking game I've ever seen, and I already thought that about the original. I remember first watching the scene where Tess stays behind, and the movements of her mouth and eyes and just the facial features made me think, is this live action or just insanely good CGI? It looks like they just filmed the whole damn game with an actual damn camera. So obviously the sequel looks even better, and I don't even know what's real anymore. I might just be playing a game of Roy.
What the hell? Roy!
If you loved the gameplay of the original, you will love playing this, and that is that. The combat is intense and the AI is brilliant. Stealth becomes more necessary in the higher difficulties. The level design is great with a few interesting set pieces like the Scars Bridge and their burning village. It's still linear but features more wide open spaces, and the environmental storytelling is almost just as good as the first. Also, it's pretty damn scary. The original was tense and had some creepy moments, but this one was kinda spooky as fuck. Like descending the skyscraper, the subway, the lower hospital levels, and that boss fight with that fucking blob thing. The impulsive question to ask is it fun? Strictly as a video game, yes, it is fun in the sense that it's engaging and entertaining, but I would not use the term fun to describe the overall experience. At a certain point, it's a horror game, and horror games aren't meant to be fun like Mario games. On top of that, it's an extremely emotional drama. It's not supposed to be fun. It's a harrowing experience. It's fun with an asterisk. So that's the good stuff. Now for the bad stuff. The big giraffe in the room. The story. The first thing I have to get out of the way though is the gay stuff. This game has several problems, but the gay stuff is not one of them. It didn't feel forced or preachy or even that awkward. If anything, it felt just as underpronounced as the rest of Ellie's character traits, of which there only seemed to be two: vengeful and horny. I actually thought Dina was okay as a character and had potential to be even better. And from their relationship to Lev's whole situation, it wasn't brought up too much or too little. At worst, it was a bit corny at times, but romance scenes are always hard to get right, and the writing of the game overall is I mean shit, Ellie seemed more annoyed by it than me. Dude, the sex scene with Abby was way more uncomfortable than any of the gay shit. Alright, big muscles and tiny boobs is not a good look on anyone. You know, so many people have accused it of pushing an agenda, and I have to ask, what is your limit? We already knew Ellie was gay, so what amount of gay stuff would you have been comfortable with? Because between all the pregnancies and young people born after Outbreak Day, the zombie apocalypse clearly doesn't deter people from fucking. And Ellie is now a horny teenager. So when exactly is a writer pushing an agenda, and when can they just genuinely want to write about a gay character or anything? When do you feel they cross that line? Because the only time I ever see people bother to accuse someone of pushing an agenda is when it doesn't align with their own. At what point does accusing someone of pushing an agenda really become about countering with the opposite agenda? I don't have a dog in that whole race, but I'm just saying. And while I'm ranting on the subject, I just gotta say, I never understood people like that. I don't want any politics in my video games or my music or my movies or nothing. Like, dude, art can be about anything, including social issues. Why would you not want it to be? That's why I love punk. and folk music and Oliver Stone. What do you want all films and songs and games to be about? Just cars and girls and guns and good times? These are the same breed of moron that go on Tom Morello's Twitter page and complain about another musician talking about politics. Like, bitch, have you been listening to Rage Against the Machine, or were you just hearing them? What machine did you think they were raging against? The washing machine?
There's all kinds of politics in all kinds of games.
I don't think they killed off Joel just to install female characters or gay characters. There is no gay conspiracy. This is not Watergate. And look, if that was their intention, then yeah, that is lame, and I have a whole video about Linkle that dives into the subject. But if that was their intention, then it's another thing they failed at, because like I said, it doesn't feel forced. It barely even comes up in the grand majority of this 30+ hour game. So if your biggest problem with this game is not with any of its actual problems, but with the gay stuff, well, Ellie might be gay, but you're the one who's
being a faggot.
After that scene, I realized the source of the backlash. I avoided the leaks, so I got the full shock, and it made me wish I did read the leaks. I realized what all those weird comment sections full of golf jokes were, and I realized why everyone was taking it out on the gay stuff. Cause let me put it this way. If Ellie was not a lesbian and had a boyfriend, we would have still been just as pissed off. Because we did not want an Ellie and her boyfriend Joey adventure just as much as we didn't want an Ellie and her girlfriend Dina adventure. We wanted another Joel and Ellie adventure. And we definitely didn't want Joel to die. I tried to make sense of it, and as much as I didn't like it, it immediately made sense to me. When Abby was introduced, I instantly knew who she was talking about without even saying his name, and I knew why. The original ended on such a cliffhanger. They were even standing on the edge of a cliff.
Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
We knew she would call him out on that lie. And Ellie said it as they were entering the city, and even Joel mentioned it at some part in the original. He has crossed a lot of people. And after all the people you killed in the original, the part with the surgeon seems like such a minor encounter. But the sequel's implication is that every NPC you killed in the original was someone's friend, father, son, daughter, whatever. One of them was bound to get pissed off enough. And Joel's getting kinda old. Does he even have another adventure in him? It makes sense in many ways. In fact, it almost makes too much sense. On one hand, it does seem like an organic way to deal with the consequences of the original game's events, but on the other hand, it feels kinda cliche. In fact, a lot of things about the narrative seem like cliche bad storytelling. The way you switch back and forth between Ellie and Abby until they meet at the last minute, too many coincidental plot devices where someone's about to get killed and then saved by another character or falling through the floor. The dialogue isn't as profound or meaningful as the original. The characters are not themselves for most of the game, and by the end, they're assassinated. The pacing is just plain crap, and they did lay the flashbacks on a bit heavy, but I didn't have a hard time following them. And the most cliche aspect is that it boils down to a typical revenge story that feels too detached from the original. Even if what happened made sense, it wasn't executed believably, and it made so much sense that it almost negates their goal of subverting expectations, because it's kind of predictable in hindsight, but it's so obviously polarizing that you'd never think they'd actually go through with it. Look, none of this is real. This is all just fiction. And there are an infinite amount of fictional stories to be told, and they can take an infinite amount of paths. It is the job of the artist to make the best roadmap. The game could have taken a different path that made just as much sense but was also more pleasing. Maybe the Fireflies attack the town and Joel goes on the run and has to save himself and reunite with Ellie and the others as he's being hunted. And at first Ellie's still mad at him, but they talk it out and heal their relationship throughout the game and come out at the end even closer. That's why even though it makes sense, I still wish they didn't do it. It's like, I understand it, but I'm not happy about it. It's a good story, but I didn't like it. Because there's something that I think strikes even deeper. The death of Joel is something gamers, specifically gamers, people who play video games, have never experienced before. In every Mario game, you play as Mario. Every Tomb Raider, you're Lara Croft. Every this, you're that, etc., etc. But this is like if Mario 2 started with Bowser killing Mario with his putter from Mario Golf in front of Luigi the day after they started to reconnect after a long dispute, and then the rest of the series was just Super Luigi. On one hand, it's a ballsy move. It's daring, it's risky.
It's a gamble. I get it.
Part of me respects that, but the other part wishes that some other franchise did it. Like if GTA 6 takes place in Vice City and has you face off with an older Tommy Vercetti and kill him. That would be kinda cool. It might not be as impactful, but that's okay, because this was too much impact. This was extremely hard to swallow. We wanted a Super Mario World to our Super Mario Brothers, and instead we got a traumatizing take on Donkey Kong Country 2. Video games are expected to be, here's the main character and here they are again in 10 slightly different sequels. Naughty Dog pushed that envelope. It was bold, but it wasn't satisfying. Not even in the cathartic way that I think they were going for. It wasn't cathartic. It was just depressing. Alright, so I'm still processing the whole game, so a lot of my thoughts are scattered, so I'm just gonna go through a few before I get to the other main thing that I'm grappling with. The parallels through the story were one thing that were done pretty well, I think. Joel's death parallel to Sarah's, Ellie's and Abby's almost equally justified quest for revenge, Ellie losing everything just like Joel did, Abby bonding with Lev like Joel did with Ellie. It's a way of showing how similar the motives and story arcs of people stuck in this world are, down to the parallel between the giraffe and the zebra. There's way too many time jumps overall, but the ending had the worst pacing I've ever experienced. First they got us rounding sheep like it's fucking Twilight Princess, and then Tommy shows up alive, which was nice, but now he's all bitter and crippled and single. And I thought they were setting us up for a sequel and was like, wow, we went through this whole story and no closure. But then... I guess we're doing it now. And then every time the screen cut to black, I'm like, oh, is this it? No, that's so. Oh, was that the end? Nope, no. Who the hell are these biker-looking assholes?
Man, the cheese up.
Okay, here's something unrelated to the game itself. Can I just say that I find it extremely childish how quickly and harshly people turn on artists? It's ironic considering the only reason they're so passionately angry now is because they loved the previous one in the first place. And it's not enough to dislike the game. They have to actively dislike the person who made it, despite still being a fan of the previous one, or even sending death threats to the actress of the least favorite character. Can every artist be allowed at least one saint anger moment in their career? They're allowed to make mistakes. That being said...
Man, up.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Alright, the story's main theme is revenge is not the answer. This is stupid not just because A, it could have been one of several themes that they didn't have to rely on so heavily for the whole thing that they had to kill off Joel, and not just because B, everyone already knows that, but also because C,
revenge is very good.
But in the case of this story, even if revenge was the answer, it wasn't worth it. The only other options are forgiving and forgetting. And although it would have been impossible to forgive what happened to Joel, Ellie may have been better off not forgetting it, but letting it go. Instead, she pulled herself and others through a traumatic ordeal that ended up giving her PSD. Jesse gets killed, which fucks over his parents and his kid. Tommy gets mangled up. She's humiliated in round 1, but after getting the upper hand in round 2, she beats the Christ out of her just to let her go, so it's as if it was all for nothing. A revenge plot that doesn't end in revenge, and as an added salt in the wound, she lost 2 fingers and can't even play guitar. Her last connection to Joel, that song, is gone. Maybe she'll be the next Tony Iommi, but what the fuck? And even for Abby, revenge wasn't worth it, because she won the battle, but lost both the war and all her friends. All the vengeance in the world wasn't going to bring her dad back, nor Joel. So all they did was cause themselves and each other more grief.
You guys suck! You can never pull together as one and revenge us.
The story has lots of interesting parallels and intersections for a theme as overdone and trite as revenge is wrong, but was it worth it? At the expense of killing Joel
I don't think so.
For a little while, the saddest part for me was the dead guy at the aquarium who died with his kid's letter in his hand. But then the real saddest part was the flashbacks to their last conversation.
I don't need your fucking help, Joel.
Like, you were already shown how mad Ellie was, but now you were seeing how affected he was by it.
Right.
And that made the death scene, like, a little more poignant. Because it makes you hope that the last thing he saw as he was barely still alive was that Ellie still cared about him. But then that was kind of weakened by the real final conversation, which could have been way better if there was some actual good dialogue. But like, Joel was treated real badly in this game, not just because he's painted as a bad guy in a world full of nothing but bad guys. But what makes it hurt even more is that he finally got a chance to like more or less settle down after 20 plus years of surviving. And he turned into this sweet old man that she turns her back on. He was learning about space for her. And he's being all supportive. And then he dies like a dog. And just as bad was what they did to Ellie. I mean, there's character development and then there's character assassination. Ellie went from being a fun, semi-innocent, positive energy to being bitter and boring, and by the end, broken. Physically, mentally, and spiritually. And now I feel so bad for her. It's not even that I don't find her likable anymore. I just feel so bad for her. Like, this is not where I wanted her to go. And Ellie wasn't just mad at Joel or Abby. She was mad at herself. Because she wasted what turned out to be the last of her time with Joel cutting him off, and the day after she made the first step to reconnecting with him, she was robbed of the chance by this bitch. Which finally brings us to the subject of this bitch, Abigail. That's such a villain name, Abigail. Isn't that the bitch from The Crucible? The first half of the game is obviously designed to make you hate Abby and her friends, and the second half is designed to make you empathize with them. And while they do try too hard, a little too much on the nose on some occasions.
Who's the best boy?
Okay, well, who doesn't love dogs? Oh yeah. It actually does work if you kinda let it. You realize that just like Joel and Ellie and everyone else in this whole world, they were once regular, decent people pressured to do these things just to survive until it corrupts them to varying degrees. Like, Joel was a hero to us in the first game because we saw his side of the story, but how could Abby not see him as anything but like a psycho who killed a hospital full of people, including her dad, shattered her hopes for a cure and a future world, and drove her to joining a hostile faction in the middle of a war with a weird cult just to survive? Well, that's one thing that I'll answer in a bit, but the other thing preventing me from fully empathizing with Abby was that she felt no remorse. Like, barring the plot hole of killing over 100 NPCs and regretting nothing, Ellie shows remorse when killing the other major characters, and even lets Abby go of her own choice. But Abby doesn't show remorse for shit, and nearly killed Dina just for being there before Lev had to step in and stop her. Like, why is revenge wrong for Ellie but okay for Abby? If anything, it's more right for Ellie, which again I'll get to in a bit, but either way, can this bitch not realize that by getting revenge on Joel, she caused Ellie the same grief that Joel caused her? And Ellie didn't deserve it any more than she did. You know, the final fight is a grim one, and it would have been more interesting to let the player make the choice, but maybe that would clash with their plans for the next game. I even thought when you go to the theater as Abby, it would let you choose who to play as, and that would be the final boss, but then they wouldn't be able to do that horribly paced ending, and that might also have clashed with their plans for the next game. I actually played the original's final chapter to see if it forces you to kill the doctor, and I'm just trying to walk around you. I don't want to kill you. Or maybe I can go here. What about over there? Nothing here. Alright, what if I just... Oh shit. I really didn't mean to do that. So maybe they have this whole series planned out since the beginning. But back to that final fight. If you still wanted to kill Abby at the end of the game, then the idea is that you failed the test that Naughty Dog was giving you. Whether that test was clear and effective in itself is another conversation. There's only one other example of a test being given like this at the end of something that comes to my mind. If you find that your analysis of the ending to American History X is slanted toward some sort of racial prejudice, you have failed to learn the lesson imparted in that film. If you find yourself completely unable to empathize with Abby's position, even in the context that the game is executed well, you have failed to see past your own perspective to empathize with someone else's. And that's kind of the last big thing that I'm grappling with. Alright, so you have Joel, who killed the doctor because he was going to kill Ellie. Then the doctor's daughter gets revenge on Joel, and then Ellie gets revenge on Abby. So we end up with this revenge triangle. And who do I blame? Who does the dope man blame? The doctor. What? Oh, but he seemed like such a nice guy, and a good dad, and he was a doctor, and he saved a zebra, and yada yada yada. Nah, you know what? Fuck this guy. This guy was way too eager to start scrambling around Ellie's brains just for the possibility of a vaccine. It wasn't even guaranteed. The Fireflies straight up knocked them out after they were hurtling through the sewer rapids, and were then gonna operate on her with a fatal surgery without consulting her, and then told Joe to just get over it after all they went through, and told him to just fuck off without even giving him his guns. Dude, I don't give a fuck if it's the end of the world. That is some serious malpractice. Oh yeah, the doctor's defense is, oh, we have to save the species and this is bigger than any one of us. Blah, blah, blah. No, you know what? Fuck all that. It's always easy to give that speech when you're the one who gets to give it. I don't want to hear that speech from anyone other than the person who has to make the sacrifice. And even Marlene said it the way he needed to hear it.
And what if this was Abby?
And you know what? He got that answer a minute later.
If it was me, I'd want you to do the surgery.
And you know what? He should have extended Ellie that same fucking courtesy. Yeah, that's a heavy thing to lay on a 14-year-old, but Ellie's been through a lot. She's tough, she swears like a sailor, and it's just the right thing to do, you stupid fuck. If she said no, or if Joel even talked her out of it, oh well, you move the fuck on. What are you gonna do, still force him into doing it? But you know what?
I was supposed to die in that hospital. My life would have fucking mattered.
She would have said yes, but she was never even asked. And now here we are. So fuck Joseph Mangala over here. Fuck his entire cause. Fuck his daughter for pushing him into doing it without asking Ellie, which is the other reason I can't get behind Abby. I told you I'd get back to that. And fuck his fucking zebra. I'm just kidding, the zebra's cute. If you went into this game with an open mind, you can understand and empathize with everyone's perspectives. And even though I still side with Joel and Ellie, this is the one area in the narrative that I kinda have to admit The Last of Us 2 actually exceeds the original, by elevating one of its core concepts to its most uncomfortable zenith. I know it seems like I've been sitting on the fence so hard that I have barbed wire up my ass, but it's a complex piece of work that stirs up complex feelings and opinions. In the end, I can understand why they took this direction. I can appreciate it for what it is even despite its flaws, but I still don't like it. And I wish they did something else. I wish they told a different story. Naughty Dog's goal was to make us conflicted, disturbed, and unhappy. And I guess it worked. I'm unhappy. But again, not in the cathartic way that I think they were going for. I'm not happy about being unhappy. Like, my gut reaction that I can't repress or fight back is not the same feeling I had at the end of Silent Hill 2. It's more like The Walking Dead. Now, I stopped watching that show after that one dude bashed the Asian kid's head in with a bat, but I was getting bored of it around the prison season. But after that, it just became too much. It's just murder porn now. I even heard they killed off Coral. What the fuck? Like, I cannot handle these shows that make you care about characters and then kill them off. I understand it's the nature of these shows' subject, but I can't subject myself to that shit anymore. It's too stressful, even if it's just fiction. I'm a gentle soul, you guys. And I know The Last of Us takes place in that kind of world, but it was a million times better than The Walking Dead, and I don't think any of us thought they would take it that far. I waited a long time for The Last of Us 2, and I'll be waiting a long time for The Last of Us 3, but this wait will not be as stressful, because I'm not looking forward to it as much. The Last of Us 2 is a golden turd. There's a lot of good things and there's a lot of bad things, but the bad things are so bad that they undermine the good things. It was a story-driven game and they killed the story. The best part of the whole game was the relationship of Joel and Ellie, and instead of progressing and developing that, they ended it super traumatically before revealing that they spent the last of their time together apart. But maybe time will be kinder to it than the initial response. Maybe The Last of Us 3 will be so amazing, and for the events in that story to happen, it needed to be set up by this one first. And part 2 will be that awkward middle child that glues the family together but never really gets thanked for it. The original is one of the games I can play over and over again. It's one of my favorites. I think I put it in 9th in my list of favorite games. But I don't know if I'll ever play part 2 again. It might even ruin my future playthroughs of the original because I know how it all ends up. With a heartbreaking game about nothing more than why you should always get a patient's consent before performing surgery on them.
You're doing the right thing.
What a bitch.